What's up, everybody? Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week, some very interesting stuff to cover here. But before I get into the news, I first want to mention I will be doing another live stream here this Sunday at noon Eastern time, like I have been doing. So join for that if you can. And also, this weekend is the last chance to get the merch on the merch store for 25% off using the Friends and Fans 25 discount that Teespring is offering here until the 17th. So grab that if you're interested. But getting into the news here this week, so it seems like Tesla is finally doing a refresh for the Model 3, if this leaked image is actually accurate and legit. So an image appeared on the r Tesla Motors subreddit thanks to FFIARPG, showing what appears to be a refresh. And so another Reddit user named LTJPunk387 identified the location as an old NASA shuttle hangar, and that definitely seems to make sense considering all the bug splatters on the front of this vehicle, which would only be possible for them to run it, in an area where they didn't have to run camo. So, an old runway or an old, closed off base certainly would be a private enough place to do that without being spotted. And interestingly, they commented that they were shooting a movie on property. This person, I guess, is in the movie business, and said that they used this old shuttle hangar. There were a bunch of Teslas under wraps, and we were instructed not to take any photos. Seriously, they definitely had some testing equipment installed on the parts we could see. Didn't see this specifically, but they wouldn't show us any details. So they were the one who actually identified that building, and it seems like it could actually be pretty legit. So again, it's the internet. Who knows, who's telling the truth or what? But, it seems to be a pretty legitimate image. If it's a fake, it's a very good one. So, I think it certainly makes sense. We can see here some inspiration from the Tesla Roadster, the new one, with those headlights. And, I think this is pretty on brand with what we could expect from a refreshed Model 3, honestly. So I'm totally inclined to believe this is legit. It also seems like there's a little bit of a dash, like a potential gauge cluster you can see possibly there with a little bit of a bump in front of the driver and the steering wheel there. So, could be nice changes in store here with adding some features people have been wanting for a long time. And so, as far as when this is coming, it's rumored to be probably coming later this year. That's also a rumored time as far as when the Gigapress production, which the Model 3 is scheduled to get, just like the Model Y, that they'll be switching that over soon, and then they'll do it alongside the refresh and do it all at the same time. Certainly would make the most sense. So we'll have to wait and see, but let me know what you think about that styling in the comments below. And I think it's a nice improvement for sure. Personally, I think it looks a lot better than the current Model 3 front end. And so, yeah, expect to see that front end everywhere in short order, though, if this does turn out to be legit. So cool to see that. For some other interesting news here that is a little more debatable. So CarBuzz recently discovered a German patent that Subaru has filed for the STe name, giving a hint at what Subaru might be considering here for some branding for an electric spiritual successor, potentially to a WRX STi, or maybe for a new trim level for some higher performing versions of their other future electric vehicles, or a version of the Subaru Solterra even, which would be kind of interesting. But when Subaru killed off the STi last year, they did say they were exploring opportunities for the next generation WRX STi, including electrification, but also confirmed that this current generation WRX will not be getting an STi version. So I'm not sure why they're patenting something so far off. If, obviously this current generation WRX just came out last year, so we probably got another at least 8 years probably before we even have to think about a new one. So it's possible that, maybe this STe thing could end up on something else like the Solterra or some other coming vehicle as well. Or maybe they'll just backtrack and be like, aha, it was a technicality. We aren't going to do a WRX STi for this generation, but we can call it a WRX STe and do something different and have it be either hybridized or fully electric or whatever. Then they technically weren't wrong, and they're not, weren't misleading us back then whenever they said there's no new STi coming, because it's called the STe instead. We'll have to see how this all plays out. There also was the STi ERA race car that was supposed to try and do a record time at the Nürburgring with like 1,000 horsepower. And so that would kind of be their test bed for future electric stuff. So it could be that a new iteration of that race car will wear an STe branding, and that's kind of why we're seeing this so soon. If there's no actual electric STi coming for another 8 years or something, we'll have to wait and see what they end up doing with the name, but it's interesting they're reserving it at this point in time, and we'll see, if they end up doing anything with it. But let me know what you think about that in the comments below. I guess it's not international anymore. It's just Subaru Technica Electric, I guess is what that would stand for. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, interesting there. Some other interesting stuff here. Toyota's CEO this week revealed 2 specific goals in regards to their new focus on battery electric vehicles, where they're really going to be investing more in those while also still focusing on all the other, hybrids and plug-in hybrids and things like that as well. But including Lexus, Toyota corporate plans to introduce 10 new battery electric vehicles by 2026. So currently, globally, they have 3 with the Lexus, the Toyota, and there's also the BZ3 in China. And they're also targeting 1.5 million electric vehicle sales a year by 2026. So again, that's globally, but still, that is a lot of EVs in just 3 years. I guess we will see just how fast they can accelerate those plans. I mean, obviously some of this stuff was already in the works, but there was talk that they were going to throw out a bunch of the ETNGA stuff and just go start from scratch because they, took apart a Tesla Model Y and were blown away by that, and I guess went back to the drawing board, was the previous rumor. Maybe all these other 10 are just going to be the other things they were already planning, and then for the next thing after these 10 is when we'll see some of the really radical stuff that, kind of reverse engineer some Tesla stuff. We'll have to see. But, the rumors suggest that the next electric vehicle to come for Toyota is a 3-row crossover, and that would probably get a Lexus version as well. But there's also the BZ compact SUV concept that was just shown, late last year. So that could also potentially end up showing up in a production version. Maybe the next one we'll get. We'll have to wait and see. But don't think they're giving up on hybrids or plug-in hybrids, though, either, because Toyota's executive vice president also said that they're working on a new generation of plug-in hybrids that will go at least 124 miles on a charge. Now, they didn't specify if that's the easier WLTP testing number or an actual EPA 124, but either way, that's almost triple the range of the best PHEVs currently. And he said that by increasing battery efficiency to extend the EV mode driving range beyond 124 miles, we will reposition PHEVs as the practical BEV and will work harder on developing this as another BEV option. And so I think, again, Toyota, I kind of agree with their approach with all this stuff that, have something that fits everybody, have fully electric stuff for people that, can live with that, have plug-in hybrids for people that, want the electric thing, but also want the flexibility of the gas, and then, have the hybrids for people who don't have the ability to charge or don't want to charge or whatever. I think, this really makes a lot of sense. And so if the plug-in hybrids now have even more range, I mean, the RAV4 Prime and the Prius Prime already have enough range for the average commute and then some. But now, if you have triple that range, then it's like you will never use that gas engine aside from road trips. And I think they're coming to terms with the fact that that's what Americans want, is they want just the ability to still have something to keep them going no matter what, and something more powerful than just a range extender, So I think this could make a lot of sense, and be interesting to see how they engineer that and package that and what kind of engine that kind of thing would have. But very interesting to hear about that. And again, if you're using it primarily just to extend your range and give you that flexibility, then even if it is slow, who cares? If you're dragging around a big 40 kilowatt hour battery pack or something, it's fine, because the main thing is just having that mobility beyond 124 miles for those people. So I think that could really, turn out to be pretty good. We'll have to see. But anyway, for some more near-term Toyota news here, they revealed a few more teaser images here for the 2024 Tacoma, this week revealing a new Trailhunter trim that'll be designated by a compass badge there on the back, and we even see the designation there in the headlights, which we're seeing for the first time here. We also see a steel bumper and tow hook on the back with ARB badges, which is an Australian company that does some off-road parts, so that suggests this extra either ARB package could be offered similar like the AEV Bison packages on the Chevy trucks, or it could just be part of the Trailhunter package as well. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, Toyota still isn't saying when to expect the full debut of the Tacoma, but with weekly teasers, I mean, we cannot be far off from a reveal. They can't keep this going for months and months and months. So expect it relatively soon, I'd say. And so anyway, but cool to get those extra couple little teasers here this week. Lexus has revealed a light refresh here for the 2024 LC500 this week. And for now, this info is specifically for Europe, but I would assume that we'll get all the same stuff in America most likely. And so anyway, as far as the best news here for the LC500, it gets rid of the controller pad and swaps in a touchscreen, thankfully. It's the 12.3-inch display to be exact, which is over 2 inches bigger than the old screen was. And it's also about over 3 inches closer to the driver as well, so it's easier to actually, touch. And it should also get the new infotainment software as well. And Lexus says it does get wireless Apple CarPlay, but wired Android Auto for some reason. Again, I don't know if that's just a Europe-only thing or what, because it's wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with all the new infotainment stuff they've been doing here. But anyway, the Mark Levinson stereo also gets some new speakers for better fidelity, they say. There's also new two-tone interior color combos with blue and white and red and black, along with 2 new colors on the outside, and a few other minor little changes inside and out. Mechanically, it gets a few tiny tweaks here to the tuning, with the largest ones being new spring tuning, a more natural and seamless feel for the brake-by-wire system, and new programming for the 10-speed auto to better anticipate the driver's intentions in D mode. And there's also more aggression in the Sport Plus mode as well. Plus, they're also going to be offering a new Expert mode that fully turns off traction and stability control, so you can get a little wild with the LC500 if you want. And the hybrid version also gets higher capacity battery cells to deliver its power faster. And lastly, there is an Ultimate Edition here for the V8 version with a special paint job, canards built into the front bumper there, and a carbon fiber rear wing, along with unique interior colors and a badge with the VIN on it. And so that sounds like the end of the LC500 for me. The Ultimate thing is something that everyone's been using that branding recently for their last call kind of vehicles. So whether this is the Ultimate Edition just for Europe, with their more stringent emissions regulations coming in, around 2025, I could see the 2024 model year potentially being the last one for the LC there in Europe. Hopefully here in the States it lasts longer than that, but it is, getting up there in age these days. I certainly hope it lasts forever, but, we'll have to see if there's any announcement made for us here. And I don't think that in Europe even they announced that this was actually the end. It's just called the Ultimate Edition. Maybe I missed something, but we'll see what ends up happening there. But nonetheless, never been a better time to get an LC now that it has all those great improvements, especially that touchscreen. Makes it, even more perfect than it already was, and still would love to have an LC someday. So anyway, cool to see that. Another gorgeous convertible that myself and many of you I'm sure would love to own that debuted this week was the Volante version of the Aston Martin DBS 770 Ultimate. Also, again, using the Ultimate branding because this is the last of these DBSs here. And so anyway, it's just the convertible version of the thing that debuted in January. It gets all the same improvements as the hardtop, of course, including the bump to 759 horsepower. And this version will be more rare, though, with only 199 being made versus 300 of the coupe. And of course, they're already sold out, and there's no pricing given for any of those because it doesn't matter. And those lucky owners will be receiving their vehicles starting in the third quarter of this year. Another quick little update here is that just a few weeks ago, Chevy revealed that they'll be able to get the Silverado ZR2 with the Duramax diesel as an option. And so now GMC has made a similar announcement. Of course, they always mirror each other. So the AT4X version of the Sierra 1500 now also is going to be available with the diesel. And it's also interesting, the diesel is the standard engine now for the AT4X for 2024, with the 6.2 liter V8 being an option. I don't know if it's an extra cost option now or what, but interesting they made that switch. But speaking of the ZR2 though, this week Chevy also debuted a ZR2 version of the Silverado HD and provided it with the same kind of improvements the 1500 version gets, which means it should be a little more capable though than the Tremors and the Power Wagons that Ford and Ram offer for their heavy duty versions. So the Chevy gets the Multimatic DSSV spool valve dampers like the others, a 1.5-inch lift, new control arms, steering knuckles, a locking rear diff, and an off-road mode. It also gets unique styling, 18-inch wheels mounted on 35-inch tires, and you can get it with either the 6.6-liter V8 that does 401 horsepower and 464 pound-feet of torque, or the 6.6-liter turbo diesel V8 that does 470 horsepower and 975 pound-feet of torque. And Chevy expects 70% of the buyers to choose that one. No big surprise there. Anyway, it's going to tow 18,500 pounds even with that off-road capability with the diesel. And the gas V8 will still tow a solid 16,000 pounds as well. And if you want to take it even further, there's an AEV Bison package that will be offered like the other GM trucks which adds steel bumpers, skid plates, and a few other unique touches. And so production starts this summer, but there's no pricing yet for those either. And some interesting little developments here on the Mini news front this past week. So last week, the next generation Mini Cooper SE, the electric version, was spied during a photo shoot and a video shoot in LA. And I mean, you saw it from every angle. I didn't cover it because I have to pay so much to legally show those spy shots that it costs more than these videos make. So I quit showing spy shots several years ago. But thankfully, Mini, though, was like, okay, well, we want to show it in a better light than those spy photos. So they officially revealed 4 images here this week that show it a bit more favorably, according to Mini. And so I think it looks really good overall. Let me know what you think about it. They didn't provide any other info because it sounds like they weren't planning to reveal anything for this for at least several more months. But still great that they kind of are, showing their hand a little bit, giving us an early glimpse here. And, I'm looking forward to hopefully hearing more about this relatively soon. But very cool to see a new Mini is even, a thing. I'm just so happy that they've continued on with these. And another small electric car from a British car company that was unofficially revealed here this week was the MG Cyberster, which came out thanks to images from the Chinese government's regulatory agency, which is where most of these Chinese-bound cars get leaked ahead of their official debuts. It's like clockwork. Every single one, it seems, just gets put out there ahead of time. And so anyway, it even provides the main specs and dimensions for this thing, revealing a car that's about 2 feet longer than a Miata and about 7 inches wider. It's all-wheel drive with a front motor doing 201 peak horsepower on its own, and the rear motor that can do a peak 335 horsepower, but there's no combined horsepower number that was given yet, so it might be lower than just adding those two numbers depending on when they were both peaking. But it'll weigh 4,376 pounds, which obviously, again, this is larger than a Miata by a good bit, but kind of gives you an idea of where an electric Miata would end up, if they ended up doing something like that in the future. But anyway, it won't matter as far as the specs for this thing anyway, because unless you live in China, you're not going to be able to get one of these. Unfortunately, it seems like it's only for the Chinese market, which is really a shame because I think something like that could have a potential here in the States and especially even in the UK since it is an MG after all. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's the case. And so anyway, but cool to see nonetheless. And so this week, the EPA proposed some new emissions regulations for cars and trucks through 2032. And the good news here is there is no all-out ban like some of the other states have been announcing. So there is nothing that says this line in the sand of everything has to be gas by this certain date. So that is the upside here. So the other main headline, though, is that they're proposing that 67% of all new light-duty vehicles should be all electric by 2032 in order to bring a 56% reduction in average fleet emissions compared to the upcoming 2026 rules. And so their estimates suggest that by 2032, the price premium for an EV would only be about $1,200. As technology, advances and improves, that cost parity gets closer and closer. While simultaneously, even though it's only going to be $1,200 more expensive, hypothetically, it'll save an owner over $9,000 in fuel, maintenance, and repairs over an 8-year period, along with lower healthcare costs, thanks to the less pollution as well. And so, again, keep in mind this is a goal. We will see, how things all play out. But also, it doesn't sound like heavy-duty vehicles are going to be exempt from any of this stuff either, because they're getting new emissions rules designed to cut their emissions by 44% by 2032 compared to the 2026 rules again. And by 2032, the goal is to have 50% of buses, garbage trucks, and similar vehicles to also be electric, along with 35% of new short-haul freight trailers or tractors, and 25% of new long-haul freight tractors. So again, also important to note this is new stuff, just the brand new stuff coming out in the year 2032. And it's important to note this is also, again, just a proposal for now. And, while the administration is working to get this set in stone quickly before the next election, again, we all know how things can change, both as far as administrations go, but also, as far as technology and, how things will end up changing over the next, 10 years or so here. But we also do know that, the shift to EVs, at least currently, is a global shift. And so regardless of what American administrations do, this is something that's changing globally. And so it's just one of those things that, I'm just happy to see that we don't have an all-out ban like, the Euro emissions, standards are doing and things like that. So again, we will see. I know a lot of analysts are saying this is still unrealistic if the proper investments aren't made. So if the money doesn't come in, expect these things to get pushed back and relaxed regardless of, who's running the country at that point. So we'll have to see how things end up playing out here. Again, lots of fluid stuff here that can change. And especially, again, the technologies are popping up every day as far as improving battery tech and all that stuff that could make it more appealing, but also other things like the e-fuels and other technologies that are also popping up all the time as well. And speaking of which, Toyota just this week also announced with Exxon that they're working to develop lower carbon gasoline, and this is reported by Automotive News. And so Toyota claims the developments could eventually cut as much as 75% of the greenhouse gas emissions produced by internal combustion engine vehicles. So again, if this is actually a thing and it can be made cheaply and it works great, then it could, kind of negate the need for the EVs, even just with this alone. And so there aren't a lot of details, but apparently they're using ethanol and renewable biomass during the refining stages to make production cleaner, but also I think make the gasoline just cleaner burning in general as well. And Exxon's VP of Strategy and Planning said it's promising in its early trials so far, but it's still very much at the test phase. So again, don't get super excited about this just yet. There's been other promising things in the past that haven't materialized or just have turned out to be unfeasible. So we will see. But between this, again, the e-fuels, advancements in battery technologies, advancements in electric generation, we will see, what all, they're all going to be duking it out, and we'll see, what ends up rising to the top and, being the most popular in the next decade or so here. But interesting to hear that. And again, just giving people more options, more choices. We'll see, let everything fight it out and see what ends up being the best solution here. And some other infrastructure news, though, as far as the EV side goes, Walmart this week announced they plan to make their own charging network of thousands of EV charging stations at their 5,000 stores. And so 1,300 of these stores already have Electrify America chargers, but it seems like they're going away from the Electrify America partnership eventually here, as they say that doing their own thing will allow them to offer an experience and price in a way that is not possible when a third party is involved in the equation. And their senior vice president of energy transformation, which I didn't realize Walmart had a position like that, they told Reuters that they have the ability to address range and charging anxiety in a way no one else in this country can, thanks to having a Walmart or Sam's Club, they say, within 10 miles of about 90% of Americans. So if that's really the case, then yes, you have 10% of people that are still that's not going to work for them, and they can go buy a plug-in hybrid Toyota or something instead. But for 90% of Americans, being 10 miles from a Walmart, in addition to being able to charge at home, those types of things can really help, to just get these chargers more widespread and make sure there aren't any, voids out there as far as, little gaps where you don't have a charger. So the goal for them is to have the network up and running by 2030. So again, we're talking 7 years away here. So nothing happening overnight. We will see how it develops, but that's their goal. That's what they're hoping for. So we'll see how that plays out, but interesting to hear that nonetheless. And the last news story here is something that basically everyone can get excited about, regardless of your thoughts and viewpoints, unless you're a car salesman or a car dealership owner, I guess. And that is that, according to Kelley Blue Book, they're reporting that the average new vehicle transaction price has fallen below MSRP for the first time in 20 months, but only for non-luxury vehicles. So luxury vehicles still continue to average above MSRP. But if you're shopping for a non-luxury vehicle, the average price is under sticker now. So go out there, find a deal. Don't accept an MSRP deal. You can get something for a discount for many of these brands. Again, that's the average. So again, there might be some that are still higher or lower. Depends on the car and stuff. But, I think, like I've said over the past, 2 years here, is you got to travel too. If your neighborhood dealership has a markup, that doesn't mean everyone has markups. You can go out of state, you can go somewhere else and get a better deal, as long as you're willing to put in the legwork and call around and figure it out. I think there are some deals to be had, and especially now it seems like the average is also going lower. So there are certainly some deals to be had. Don't get raked over the coals. So anyway, great to hear that. And lastly, I want to give a huge thank you to all of you who are members of the Matt Maran Motoring Club. So we did have a few new members join this past week, and many of that was thanks to the Truck and Car Guy, who had gifted a bunch of memberships here in the past live stream. And so that allowed a lot of you to rejoin. And YouTube doesn't show me who joined from a membership gift and who actually just joined on their own. So I apologize if I don't differentiate that properly here. But we did have 3 new members that ended up joining who are brand new members I wanted to highlight. So huge thanks to Elijah Yar, Gerard, Tom C, and Spy Harpy for becoming members this week. I hope you're all enjoying the membership experience so far. Be sure to, again, join in on the live stream if you can to get that priority answering that those members get. And but yeah, so thank you all so much for your support, though. I really do appreciate it. And also thank you all very much for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend here. Please also leave a like, comment, and subscribe to keep these videos coming. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.